What if the person you thought you knew your entire life turned out to be someone you could never trust? Someone who smiled for cameras, played the hero on screen, but behind closed doors may have been living a nightmare that no one ever suspected? This is the shocking reality Melissa Gilbert is finally revealing about her husband, Timothy Busfield. And what she said, words that only now have surfaced, will leave you speechless. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Tease the story without giving it all away. On January 13th, 2026, the world got a glimpse of a side of Busfield few could have imagined. Authorities released his mugshot after he surrendered, facing allegations that have stunned Hollywood and shattered trust. 2 counts of criminal sexual contact of a minor. 1 count of child abuse. And yet, in a video obtained by TMZ, Busfield looked into the camera and said, "They're all lies, and I did not do anything to those little boys." But behind the headlines, behind the official statements, lies a much darker, more complicated story. A story that only Melissa Gilbert could tell. A story of betrayal, heartbreak, and a confession that might redefine everything you thought you knew about the actor. Why this story matters now. Why is this story exploding in 2026? Because it's not just a Hollywood scandal. It's a reminder that appearances can deceive. That people who charm the world may be hiding secrets darker than anyone could imagine. And it's a wake-up call. Even those closest to the so-called heroes in our lives can carry shadows no one sees. Melissa Gilbert's confession is more than a personal revelation. It's a cultural moment. It's about the intersection of celebrity, accountability, and the protection of the most vulnerable. It's about the world we live in and how fame can both hide and reveal truth. Scene setting, making it personal. Imagine the cameras, the red carpets, the applause, the smiles for photos. The perfect life that everyone envies. That's the life Melissa and Timothy shared, or at least the one the public saw. But behind closed doors, the laughter faded, the smiles were hollow, and a tension grew that no one could see. Melissa, known to millions as the beloved star of Little House on the Prairie, faced a reality that was unimaginable, living beside a man accused of unthinkable acts, while the world still cheered for him on screen. The emotional weight is almost unbearable. And now, for the first time, she has spoken. Every word, every detail, every raw emotion is part of a confession that will shake Hollywood to its core. Building suspense, many curiosity loops. Here's the question. How could a man, beloved on TV, married to a Hollywood icon, end up facing accusations that most people can't even imagine? What did Melissa Gilbert see in those private moments that the public never did? And perhaps the most shocking question of all, did she realize sooner? And if so, why did she stay silent for so long? In the next hour, we're going to peel back the layers. We're going to look at the arrest, the mugshot, the denial video, the media frenzy, and the hidden truths Melissa has now revealed. You'll feel the tension, the heartbreak, the anger, and yes, the disbelief. We'll examine the patterns, the warnings, and the red flags that might have been overlooked by fans, colleagues, and even friends. You'll hear about the moments that seemed innocuous but, in hindsight, screamed warning signs. And most importantly, you'll hear Melissa Gilbert's own words. The confession that finally tells the story the world has been waiting for. Hook the audience with emotional engagement. Ask yourself, what would you do if someone you loved, the person you trusted more than anyone, was capable of actions you couldn't even comprehend? Could you stay silent? Could you live with the knowledge and keep smiling in public? Could you reconcile the person you loved with the allegations that now hang over them like a storm cloud? Melissa faced that choice. In her confession, it is nothing short of devastating. Foreshadow the drama ahead. Over the next hour, you'll hear about the moment Timothy Busfield surrendered and the reactions that followed. The explosive leak of Melissa Gilbert's private confession. Friends, colleagues, and insiders who are finally speaking out. Patterns and red flags that have been hidden in plain sight. The emotional toll on a woman who went from Hollywood icon to a woman confronting unimaginable betrayal. Every chapter we cover will end with a cliffhanger, because in this story, the surprises never stop and the truths keep unraveling. And right now, we're only at the surface. By the time this story ends, you'll be asking yourself, How could a man so admired on screen become a man so reviled in private? How could someone hide such darkness while the world cheered them on? And what did Melissa Gilbert finally see? What words finally escaped her lips that forced her to call him, in her own words, pure evil? Chapter 1 will take us inside the day Timothy Busfield surrendered to authorities, the mugshot that shocked the world, and the video where he publicly denied everything. It's the first puzzle piece of a story that is far from over. What happens when the hero you loved on screen becomes the suspect in a story you can't even imagine? That's exactly what Hollywood woke up to on January 13th, 2026. Timothy Busfield, the acclaimed actor, husband of Melissa Gilbert, and familiar face on both television and film, turned himself into authorities, but the world didn't just see him in a mugshot. They saw the beginning of a story that would shock everyone. Setting the scene, it was a gray, cold morning when Busfield arrived at the local sheriff's office. Paparazzi had already gathered outside, their cameras flashing relentlessly, capturing a man who had spent decades portraying heroes on screen. But this time, he wasn't the savior. This time, the story was about allegations so serious, so horrifying, that it seemed almost impossible to reconcile with the man millions had cheered for over the years. The arrest stemmed from allegations involving two 11-year-old boys, with charges including 2 counts of criminal sexual contact of a minor, 1 count of child abuse. It was the kind of headline no parent or fan ever wants to read. The kind of allegation that instantly transforms admiration into disbelief. And in the middle of it all, Busfield maintained his innocence. The mugshot that shocked Hollywood. Once inside, authorities processed him. And then the image appeared, Busfield's mugshot. It was surreal. Here was the man who had spent decades portraying integrity, heroism, and decency. His eyes tired, his face tense, staring directly into the camera. The public reaction was instantaneous: shock, disbelief, anger, and in some cases, outright denial. On social media, fans struggled to reconcile the smiling, charming actor they had followed for years with the accusations now dominating every news feed. Some refused to believe it, some demanded justice immediately, and others simply watched, horrified, as the story unfolded like a slow-motion train wreck. The public denial. Shortly after surrendering, Busfield recorded a brief video statement that TMZ obtained and released. In it, he stared into the camera and said, "They're all lies, and I did not do anything to those little boys." The words were simple, direct, but in the court of public opinion, simplicity is often not enough. While some took him at his word, others saw the statement as a calculated attempt to protect a reputation that now teetered on the brink. Analysts immediately began dissecting his tone, his body language, his choice of words. Was it genuine denial, or was it carefully crafted? Could someone facing charges of this magnitude really be telling the truth, or was it desperation hiding behind a camera lens? Immediate media frenzy. As news outlets scrambled, coverage exploded. TMZ, People, CNN, and local affiliates ran the story on loop. Headlines screamed for attention. Timothy Busfield surrenders after child sex abuse allegations. Hollywood in shock. Beloved actor faces shocking charges. Busfield's mugshot released amid criminal investigation. Every news cycle brought new speculation, new rumors, and new questions. Even Hollywood insiders who thought they knew him were left reeling. Some colleagues expressed disbelief privately, others quietly distanced themselves. And behind the camera flashes and the media frenzy, a quieter, more personal story was beginning to emerge, a story that only Melissa Gilbert could tell. The complexity of public versus private life. This chapter is not just about the arrest. It's about the collision of public perception and private reality. The world saw a mugshot, a denial video, and a media storm. But inside the walls of their home, Melissa Gilbert faced an entirely different reality. While millions debated whether Timothy was guilty or innocent, Melissa had been living with tension, fear, and uncertainty for years. Behind closed doors, what she saw was not just the charming, funny man on screen. It was someone capable of actions and behaviors that no public audience could ever understand. Audience engagement. Ask the viewer. Now, pause for a moment and ask yourself, if someone you trusted, someone you loved deeply, faced allegations this serious, how would you react? Would you believe them? Would you defend them? Or would you face the terrifying possibility that the person you thought you knew could be guilty? This is exactly what Melissa Gilbert had to confront. The arrest was not just a news event, it was personal. And the truth she would reveal soon would leave the world questioning everything. The legal context, laying the foundation. At the time of surrender, authorities confirmed that the charges were serious. The case involved multiple investigations, interviews with alleged victims, and a legal process that could take months, even years, to unfold. Yet, the story quickly became about more than the law. It became about trust, betrayal, and the public's need to understand someone they once adored. Legal experts began weighing in. How do allegations like this affect a career built on a wholesome image? How does public opinion shape the narrative even before evidence is presented? Every expert, every news anchor, every fan had a theory, but only one person had the full story: Melissa Gilbert. Foreshadow Melissa Gilbert's confession. What the public didn't yet know, and what would soon send shockwaves through Hollywood, was Melissa's own revelation. The woman who had spent decades in the spotlight, who had shared a life with Timothy Busfield, had been carrying a secret. A secret so intense, so emotional, that it redefined her marriage, her career, and the way fans would look at both of them forever. And when she finally spoke, her words were chilling. Simple, direct, devastating. He's pure evil. That's right. Melissa Gilbert, once seen as the perfect Hollywood icon, publicly confirmed what millions were only beginning to suspect. The charming, beloved man the world knew might not have been the man she lived with behind closed doors. Cliffhanger. Lead into Chapter 2. So here's the question. What did Melissa see? What moments? What behaviors? What signs had been building for years that now culminated in a confession so raw it stunned Hollywood? And perhaps most importantly, why did it take this long for her to speak out? In Chapter 2, we go behind the public headlines, behind the mugshot and denial video, and into Melissa Gilbert's private world. The hidden struggle, the heartbreak, and the confession that has everyone talking. Because the arrest was just the beginning. The real story, the story of betrayal, emotional devastation, and shocking truths, is only just beginning to unfold. Behind every Hollywood smile, there's a story you don't see. For Melissa Gilbert, the public face of wholesome television and the beloved Laura Ingalls of Little House on the Prairie, that story was one of silent suffering, private fear, and a growing realization that the man she loved and trusted completely might not be who he seemed. While the world focused on Timothy Busfield's mugshot, his surrender, and the allegations, Melissa had been living a reality that few could imagine. It was a story of heartbreak, of betrayal, and ultimately, of courage. The courage to finally speak out. The public versus private Melissa. To millions, Melissa Gilbert is an icon of strength and innocence. She grew up in front of the cameras, portraying kindness, resilience, and integrity. Her public image is almost flawless, warm, approachable, and fiercely talented. But public perception often hides private truths. Behind the red carpets, interviews, and magazine covers, Melissa faced tension that few knew existed. She lived with a man accused of unthinkable acts, allegations so serious that the very idea of them could shatter a person's sense of reality. Melissa's struggle wasn't just about shock or disbelief, it was about survival. The emotional toll of maintaining appearances while confronting fears that no one else could understand was immense. Friends noticed her withdrawal at times, but few understood the storm raging behind her calm exterior. The emotional burden. Imagine living with someone accused of harming children. Imagine facing the possibility that the person you loved might be capable of actions that you can't comprehend. And imagine having to continue your daily life, attend public events, and smile for cameras while the weight of suspicion hangs over your household. Melissa carried that burden quietly for years. Every interaction, every decision, every photo op required immense self-control. But the fear wasn't just about public perception. It was about the safety, trust, and emotional well-being of everyone around her. She reportedly wrestled with questions that no one else could answer. Could I have done more to prevent this? Did I miss signs that were right in front of me?